Zeke Ironwood had never lost a fight in his life. At least, not one that could be measured in noise, concrete, or pride. When the town's homeowners association tried to tell him what he could and couldn't build on his own land, he made it his personal crusade to show them what defiance looked like in steel and sweat. But every wall he raised would turn into his own cage, every argument into an echo chamber. This is the story of how one man mistook control for freedom, and how karma reminded him that peace doesn't come from winning. Subscribe and like for more stories from Karma's ledger, where every deed finds its echo. Zeke Ironwood was the kind of man who built his world with his own hands: stone, timber, sweat, and stubbornness. His house sat at the edge of Pine Hollow, a quiet lakeside town that had once been nothing but forest and prayer. He'd moved there for solitude, but over the years, solitude had been crowded out by ambition. The Homeowners Association, the HOA as everyone called it, was meant to keep things tidy. Lawns trimmed, mailboxes uniform, fences approved. To Zeke, it was a nest of petty tyrants. When the new HOA president, a sharp-smiled widow named Donna Greeley, sent him a letter demanding he remove his homemade wind turbine for aesthetic non-compliance, he laughed so hard he nearly choked on his coffee. "Aesthetic non-compliance," he muttered. "That's rich." But as the fines started arriving, the laughter died. Zeke fought back the only way he knew how, with noise, construction, and defiance. He built a new fence taller than the rules allowed, painted it iron black, and added motion sensor lights that blinded anyone who walked too close. Then, just to make a point, he started working on his latest obsession: the Ironwood Dam, a massive retaining wall meant to improve the runoff from his side of the lake. It was half science, half revenge, and all ego. Neighbors complained. Donna threatened legal action. Zeke didn't budge. "It's my land," he told her one morning when she came striding up his driveway in her pressed suit and smug confidence. "I'll build what I damn well please." She smiled, slow and cold. "Until it affects ours, Mr. Ironwood. You can't hold back water forever." Her words rolled off him at the time, but they lingered like thunder before a storm. He worked through nights, hammering and pouring concrete, while the frogs fell silent and the lake shimmered under floodlights. The townsfolk whispered that he was losing it. Some said they saw him talking to himself near the dam, arguing with an unseen voice. What they didn't know was that the voice was his own, his late wife's, buried in his memory. She'd loved the lake, told him once that water never truly belonged to anyone. Zeke had forgotten that until the first crack appeared in the wall. It started small, a hairline fracture beneath the turbine pipe. He patched it, cursed the workmanship, blamed the weather. But over the next few weeks, the ground beneath the structure began to shift, soft and uneasy. The HOA ordered him to halt construction. He refused, filing counterclaims and spending his savings on permits and lawyers who stopped returning his calls once the money ran dry. He became the town's ghost builder, working alone, living on caffeine and spite. When the rains came early that spring, the lake rose fast. Zeke was out by the dam with a floodlight, boots sunk in the mud, watching the water lick at the edges like a hungry animal. He heard the sound, a low groan deep in the concrete, and something inside him cracked with it. He turned off the light, went home, and poured himself a drink. The power flickered twice that night. Somewhere out there, the lake was remembering. The collapse came quietly. No explosion, no spectacle, just a slow surrender. The dam didn't burst so much as breathe its last. Water spilled through like forgiveness denied too long, flooding the yards, the basements, the fences he'd mocked. His own home, built high on pride and concrete, held for a while, then yielded. By dawn, Pine Hollow looked like a watercolor left out in the rain. Zeke stood on the hill, soaked and shaking, as the HOA volunteers worked shoulder to shoulder to help neighbors salvage what they could. Donna Greeley, mud-streaked and exhausted, passed him a shovel without a word. For the first time in his life, he took it. Together they dug trenches to guide the water back to the lake. Not as enemies, not as litigants, just people trying to save what was left. Days later, the investigation concluded what everyone already knew: unauthorized structural tampering, neglect, pride. Zeke signed the liability papers with hands that finally trembled. The insurance covered little. The rest of his savings went into rebuilding the community park the flood had ruined. Nobody ordered him to do it. He just showed up one morning with lumber and tools, the same way he'd once shown up to defy them. Children from the neighborhood helped, laughter echoing through the hollow where resentment used to live. Donna brought sandwiches. When the new wooden bridge was finished, Zeke carved a small plaque at its base. For everyone who stayed to rebuild. Years later, Pine Hollow would tell the story differently. Some said the old man's dam broke because of faulty design. Others said karma had stepped in, patient and precise. But the ones who'd been there knew better. They said Zeke Ironwood finally learned that strength isn't about standing alone. It's about knowing when to kneel beside others and lift together. When he died quietly in his sleep, the town named the rebuilt bridge after him, Ironwood Crossing. The same water he'd tried to control now flowed peacefully beneath it, steady and clear. And sometimes, when the evening wind blew across the lake, you could hear the faint rhythm of hammering. Not the angry clatter of defiance, but the calm, steady pulse of a man who had finally built something that would last.